Another video on faffing around with cornflake buns. So I was flapping. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I was faffing around with cornflake buns. Well, I was faffing around with cornflakes, and I decided I'd see what else I could use them in, and then I ended up smashing the cornflakes up and adding it to a cornflake bun mixture, and then kind of rolling it out flat and making these thin kind of cookies that were biscuit stroke refrigerator cake type of things. They were thin, they were nice, they were delicious. I took them to where I work on a Wednesday, and they gave them out as afternoon tea, and everyone thought they were lovely, including all the helpers and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of thought, well, I want to have another go at them. I want to use some chocolate this time. So that last time I used cocoa powder, so like a cheaper version. I always like to do the cheaper version of things. If I'm having a play around with something, let's do it on the cheap. And then if it's a complete disaster, it's not a complete disaster and a waste of lots of money. So let's have a go on the cheap. And then also it kind of shows you that we can do things if we're on a little bit of a tighter budget, we can still do nice things and have nice food. And I think that's so important, certainly in these days, you know. And also if you're doing projects and you want the kids involved and you're worried about them it all going wrong, then you're not throwing that much money away, you know. So I think this is certainly important in these days and ages, and we shouldn't be wasting food anyway. So what I thought about doing was doing the same process, doing one with chocolate, and then we'll do one with cocoa powder as well. So we'll kind of see the difference between them both, which will be interesting. And then I also kind of thought I thought it'd be nice once we've rolled it flat if we can roll it around a tube. So I've got a bit of tube that's from an old blind from the kitchen, which I just kind of, when I pulled the blind to bits or replaced the tube or something, I thought, oh, that's a nice, interesting little useful bit of tube. We might just be able to use that for something. I did use it for something else, but I thought what we'll do is we'll use that as the mould for rolling around, or half rolling around. I'm kind of thinking like tubes, like a brandy snap basket tube type of thing, or a cannoli type of tube that we can then pipe something into. But we'll see if it works first. So, oh yeah, I put some oil on the tube as well. So, recipe for this is, I've had to scale it down because I didn't have just enough chocolate, but the recipe should be 3 tablespoons worth of golden syrup, 50 grams worth of butter, 100 grams worth of chocolate. I'm using dark chocolate because that's what I had, whereas most people will use milk chocolate. Either's fine. I prefer dark chocolate. I need to close the door because the washing machine's on. And then 100 grams worth of cornflakes, but they're not cornflakes, they're Bran Flakes, because I used up all my cornflakes in the last experiment, and I didn't want to buy more cornflakes for them to then sit in the cupboard for another 2 years. So I thought, well, I'll buy Bran Flakes, and then I can give any leftover Bran Flakes to my mum. So it solves that problem of me having something in the cupboard that I have to then think of something to do with instead of throwing out. I can simply give them to my mum. So melted the butter, the golden syrup, and the chocolate. Be careful. You don't want to boil it. You don't want to heat it too vigorously, otherwise it'll ruin the chocolate. So, crunched up biscuits, cornflakes, and then we can see how we go. Do we need to put some more in? I think we need to put some more in than that. That's 80 grams. I think we need more than that. So let's weigh it out a little bit more. So, in the recipe it's supposed to be 100 grams. But I used 80, so I need to kind of compensate for that, don't I? So let's put in another 20 grams. And then that we can compensate for that in the recipe. That looks a bit better. Yeah, that looks better. So I'll have to change the recipe slightly, just so we can. That works. Doesn't need a little bit more. Tempted to put a little bit more in. I think obviously the Bran Flakes way different to Cornflakes. They're probably a little bit denser, and also because then although we've smashed them up, so they've got a bigger surface area because we've crunched them up. That's another 10 grams. So anyway, that'll be fine. I think that'll be fine. So now put that on some, what's this, baking parchment. It's not greaseproof paper, but baking parchment or greaseproof paper. And then we'll use that pan again for the next batch because, believe it or not, I'm not really a fan of washing up. Not really a fan at all. So then press that down by hand to get it going. And then I've got my rolling pin somewhere. That pole's just a little bit too big to be a rolling pin. So get it out. Just some kind of, not as thin as we can, but yeah, I think we need another sheet. Yeah, we need another sheet. I've probably seen this idea somewhere. I don't think there's any new ideas under the sun. I think I might have picked up this idea from someone else through osmosis, and then thought to myself, "Oh, that's a good idea," or thought I'd thought of it myself, but haven't. But I think we'll just have to be careful and wait until this sets before we start playing around with it. Let's get that somewhere in the centre, like that, and then put this sheet on top. There's always a danger of it spreading out everywhere. And then I think we'll have to leave it to cool until it's, I suppose we could get it cool so it's not falling to bits and it holds its shape, but still malleable enough that we could wrap it around something. And I suppose if we need to melt it slightly, we could always get out the hairdryer, because I do own a hairdryer, even though my head, I don't shave my head, but I cut it number 3 these days. The last time I used my hairdryer, I was melting some aluminium outside of the barbecue and using the hairdryer as a source of air. Looks nice and thin, doesn't it? Let's do that a little bit more. Right, so we will let this cool slightly and then see if we can mould it into an interesting shapes. That should be about right. Maybe a little bit too thin, but we'll see how we go. Bran Flakes don't seem to work. I've had these in the fridge and it's the only time that they've actually set. So I don't think it was because they were too small. I think for some reason Bran Flakes don't want to work in cornflake buns, so you'll have to, because by crunching them up you give them more surface area, so it should have set more solid. So I don't know if I've done something wrong, or there's something with the weight of the Bran Flakes that you don't get. You get, Bran Flakes are denser, so you get less Bran Flakes for the weight. So I'll have to do this experiment again. I'll have to buy some cornflakes. They're only 75p for a box, just the cheap ones, and we'll do the experiment again. So we will be back when I've bought some cornflakes and done both recipes again, and it means I'll have to buy some chocolate. But it's better that I do it and make the mistake than anyone else, isn't it? Right, so It did eventually set to some degree in the fridge, but once it gets back to room temperature, it's too soft. So obviously, Bran Flakes don't work if we're making cornflake buns or Bran Flake buns, if you want to be like pedantic about it. Although they did, over time, obviously, the Bran Flakes soaked up some of the liquid and became firmer. So let's do it again with cornflakes. So 40 grams of golden syrup, 25 grams of butter, 50 grams worth of dark chocolate. So I like dark chocolate, and I think it was on special. I think I got it for free, and that's why I've got it. It's done well to last in the cupboard for so long. And then 50 grams worth of smashed up cornflakes. I've done more in case we need more. So that in there like that. And then do I think we need some more cornflakes in there? I think we do. Let's weigh out another 20. I've done extra just in case. Well, I'm going to do it with the cocoa powder as well. So that's 25 grams. So let's put in half of that, and then we'll kind of mix around, and then we'll get an idea. I think we could probably put a bit more in, which is more than the recipe says. The recipe is 50 grams for 50 grams worth of chocolate, but I think it'll take more than that. I think it'll take all that. So that feels better. Yeah, that feels better. So that's 75 grams worth of cornflakes, and then onto here, which is the baking parchment that I used for the other batch. I'm only faffing around, so I'm not gonna waste some baking parchment or something I'm just faffing around with. We don't like waste, do we? So, do we need another bit on top? Just put another bit on top just to make sure, and then press down a little bit. Give it smack down with the spoon, and then we'll. I did have my rolling pin. I did have my rolling pin. My kitchen's a bit untidy, so I haven't got so much space. My kitchen's always untidy because I'm always faffing around with things. And then we'll see if this sets up, and if it doesn't, I don't know. I don't know. How does that look? That'll be alright. Right, so. Oh, I hope it's going to be okay. Let's take that off so we don't pull it to bits. So I'll do some with cocoa powder, and then we'll have a look at it all together. So, 40 grams worth of cocoa, 75 grams worth of butter, 75 grams worth of golden syrup, and 100 grams worth of crunched up cornflakes. I've got some more if in case we need it. I don't think we'll need it with this. That looks better. That looks better. Does that? That looks okay. So. I don't think it's going to need any more. Yeah, we'll be fine with that. Right. Into that. just I suppose rolling it and patting it down will make it form a more solid lump. So we can reuse. Oh, it's going to make a mess. No, I'll have to use another sheet of baking parchment. I don't want to. Baking parchment on top. It's probably just not quite big enough, but it's fine. And then it'll roll out. And then we'll let it set up. If it goes a bit too far, we can always melt it with a hairdryer and get it back to a more manageable state. But it's a hot day today. I don't know when I'll publish this video, but we're in the middle of, it's summer solstice. We're on the 21st of June. So that looks fine. So we'll leave that to set up and chill, cool, and then we'll see if we can form it into shapes, or it'd be nice to form it into shapes, but it might just have to be cut up into biscuit shapes. So these are the two rice cornflake, not Rice Krispie, cornflake biscuits type of thing. They've been in the fridge for a couple of days because I've been a bit busy. It's set, but that's because it's only been in the fridge. Like once you warm it up, let's warm it up in my hands. It won't keep together like I thought it would. Like I wanted to roll it, and I don't think that's going to work. So, well, maybe. Let's be cloth. Tastes alright. Let's warm a bit with the blowtorch and see what happens. We don't want to put it in the oven, but we'll just warm it with the blowtorch. Hang on. I suppose I really should have got the hairdryer, because flames are a lot more dangerous than hot air. But I think I rolled it out too thin. But I think I wanted it that kind of thickness, so it kind of rolled up. But I don't think that's going to work as I'd like. Should have got a hairdryer out. I should have really gone and get a hairdryer, shouldn't I? That's if it still works. Let's see if that's anything. Oh, you see, oh look. So that's going to happen, but can't roll it because it wants to fall to bits. And I don't think that's because that's melted in other kind of places. I think it's because it's too thin and there's not kind of enough of a structure to the crunched up cornflakes. It's not as if there's lots of fault lines in it. So I don't know how to kind of describe that. It's going to prone to be cracked because there's nothing solid holding it together. Nothing's kind of like meshed together to hold it together, so it's not going to form together. I did have an idea of holding it all to make it a bit thicker, and then maybe it would hold together a bit more. I'll go and get the hairdryer. Right, so I've warmed it with the hairdryer, but it's just not going to want to be malleable in the kind of way that I want it to be. So I did have a thought about, just roll it out and make it thicker, but what we could do is we can just fold it over like that and roll it down a little bit. Since we've melted the top of that, we can just make it thicker like that. And then no, it's not gonna, there's not enough kind of structure to it, and it's not, because it's cold set, it's not baked, so it's not kind of meshed together while it's being baked, but so it's not gonna roll and hold together even if we do it thicker. So, bit of a failed experiment. I don't think don't think the other one will be any different. I don't think the other one will be any different. So let's just melt it a little bit. We've melted it a little bit, but that doesn't want to hold together either. So yeah, failed experiment. But I think it does make those nice thin kind of like biscuit type things, doesn't it? So I did think it was the Bran Flakes that were the problem, but it's just the nature of what it is, that it's not meshing together. So, but it does make those nice biscuits where it's a little bit thicker. So what we'll do is I'll melt that a little bit better, and then we'll fold it over. Right, let's fold it over. Which way we're going to go? That should be quick, I think. So I think it needs to be a certain kind of thickness. Although thinking about it, I was thinking the other experiment that I did some like flapjacks, and I think we'll be able to do what I wanted to do with flapjacks if we rolled it out thinner. I think flapjacks would hold together, but that can be another video, and this can just go down as a failed video, but not failed, because we'll make some nice biscuits out of that. So I imagine that these will go across there like that, go across there like that, and then it'll cool and harden, and because it's thicker it'll hold together a bit better, and then we'll have these like refrigerator cake biscuits type of thing. But you see what I'm kind of doing now. So I think they'll be thick enough that they'll hold together without being too fully to bits like that. But anyway, so failure, but we learn more in failure than we do in success. I think people just say that really to make themselves feel better about failure. But anyway, so I'm not really bothered. It's more important that I find out something. You know, is something will work or not. If it fails, it fails. If it works, it works. You know, but the knowledge that we can take from something is why something doesn't work, is the knowledge that we can use in another scenario. So I suppose that's why they kind of say, you know, you learn from failure. You learn more from failure than success. Anyway, so they'll make some nice kind of biscuits. We'll give those to the volunteers on Wednesday as something to be eaten. But didn't work. Not to worry. But it's given me another